Yes, finally, the great player break winter has passed. Tournaments are back, the flowers, they're blooming, the birds are singing, and I have an excuse to wake up before 10 a.m. again. That's right, baby, the Blast Fall groups began today, so we have games to talk about. This is the build-up to the last Blast Fall Finals Showdown, as during the player break, Blast announced a huge revamp to their event formats for the year, and it all starts after the conclusion of this Finals. So in a way, this tournament is sort of an end of an era for Blast. I'm really curious to see what they do going forward into the future, something we'll save for another video. Today though, we gotta focus on the first set of games. We opened up with Spirit taking on OG, then Complexity taking on Heroic, Vitality taking on the new look GamerLegion, and then ending the day with Astralis taking on the Falcons. If you missed out on today's action, then you were in the right place. This is the #1 spot for daily tournament recaps while the biggest events in the world are going on. So make sure you sit down, crack open your favorite beverage of choice, and let's go ahead and get started. Right after you remember to take a second, leave a like, leave a comment down below, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. It helps out immensely in the YouTube algorithm, so make sure you do it. And while you are down there, consider becoming a channel member for $5 a month. You can support me directly in what we do here, gain access to regular videos the night before anyone else, as well as a shout out at the end of every video. And lastly, check me out on Twitch, linked down below. I stream Sunday through Friday at 8:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Make sure you come on by and say hello. I would really appreciate it. Okay, so we kicked off the festivities today with OG taking on Team Spirit, which unfortunately was a complete bloodbath because OG are a bunch of Make-A-Wish kids who are just happy to be here, and Team Spirit is arguably the best team in the world. There's really not much to get into here. This was an absolute layup for Team Spirit, and instead of just putting the ball in the basket, they decided to do a front flip and a twist and make sure the hoop exploded when they landed. I mean, for the series, I'm just going to put up the stats. I feel like they tell a pretty quick story. Nobody on Team Spirit fell below a 1.2 rating, including Chopper, while on the other side of things, OG failed to get above a 0.7 rating. Shout out to Thomas though, he had that nice 0.69 rating. But we can go a little bit deeper, I guess. We start off on Dust 2, it's 13-3, OG are never in this game at any point. Spirit looked incredibly dominant on the CT side. Shiro had a nice ace to open up on the third round. Donk was looking good when he managed to pick up an AK moving around the lower tunnels. And really OG, they didn't have anything in the bag. No great sophisticated setups. They couldn't really take any map control, and they certainly couldn't beat the firepower that Spirit brought to the table, which is why the game ended so fast. Now, in all fairness, we moved to Mirage. Map 2, things are looking a little bit better here for OG. We get like a 7-5 half to start off. They're looking like they're in it. They're motivated. They're ready to go. And then Spirit moved to the CT side and shut things down. Spirit have this incredibly great synergy on the CT side of Mirage, where you have Shiro, who's a much more passive opper, playing off of Donk's aggressiveness and connector in mid, makes taking mid control for any T side really, really difficult. And when everything's working off of each other, it feels like you can't take much map control as the T side. You're getting boxed out very early on into these rounds. Add on to it, Zontix had a monster game himself. He ends with 27 kills and a 1.8 rating. And yeah, even though OG were competitive in the first half, they simply couldn't match what Spirit were outputting, especially in the clutch. But at the end of the day, that's just the raw power difference between these two teams and why this was such a layup series for Spirit overall. Alright, we're heading to our next series of the day. We had Complexity taking on Heroic. And on the surface, I think this is a very interesting matchup. Heroic are in a really interesting spot right now. They're one of those teams that really looks like they can make a run up the leaderboards for the rest of this year. And honestly, this is my prediction. I think we will see Heroic in a big finals matchup before the year is over. They are very good, very solid. They have a great core and some great star players. And it feels like they are a young team that is only getting deadlier from event to event. So going into this, Complexity looking a little shaky, especially with their performance at the EWC. A lot of questions around this roster and the validity of them going forward as a top 10 team versus the young upstarts in Heroic. What was going to happen? However, that all got ruined by the star opera of Heroic, Dexter, not being able to show up for this first set of games, meaning that Heroic's coach Saw had to step in and play in his spot. Which leaves Heroic in a really vulnerable spot here, because now you've lost arguably your best player. You have to bring in your coach, who, mind you, has not played a professional match since 2020 when he was playing for Havu in an online cash cup. So surely, under these circumstances, Complexity would be able to win this series and advance against a gutted Heroic. Right? Right?
I mean, guys, what the hell are we doing? Like, what's the point? What is this? What am I looking at? What do you mean you guys lost? ELIGE! Why? ELIGE! Please! Why are we losing to them? You're supposed to be Captain America, ELIGE! What's going on?
In all seriousness, I think what went wrong here was the classic setup for complexity failure. When ELIGE underperforms, this team underperforms. They're truly heliocentric. ELIGE is the spearhead of their attack both on CT and T side, and he is so aggressive by nature that when he doesn't have success taking space, it makes it so much harder for everybody else on the map to work. When it does work, ELIGE is a top 5 player in the game, and you have Grim right behind him providing support. halzRK is a more passive, lurking style of opper, does great to work around those two when they are activated. But when it doesn't work, and when Floppy or halzRK or Grim is forced to step up on their own, they're not able to do it consistently. ELIGE has to be the key. He has to be the starting point for the team. And there seems to be this compounding issue. When ELIGE starts to struggle, he starts to try to take more space. He's good enough and his game IQ is so insanely high that he sees paths that nobody else does. He sees gaps that aren't there for anyone else in the game. And when he tries to take them and they work, it's transcendent. But when it doesn't work, he dies early on into the round or gets caught out, and suddenly complexity are gutted. We're rapidly reaching the point where I'm out on this roster. There needs to be a change. ELIGE can't maintain himself as the sole superstar in this roster. There needs to be someone more consistent to stand behind him and take some of these secondary roles. And when ELIGE does go in and he only gets 1 kill and gets traded, or he goes in and makes space but doesn't get a kill, there needs to be a definitive number 2 behind him who's going to get those cleanups. And right now, complexity doesn't have it, and when they don't have it, they look vulnerable, and a heroic that are down in firepower can rely on Tessus and Shush and Nertz, who are so consistent as a trio to just work around Kicksands' great in-game leading, and Saw doing his best to not be a liability. That's just going to be enough because heroic are bigger than the sum of their parts. They play such good team Counter-Strike, and that's so opposite to what complexity rely on. I mean, listen, stats don't tell all. Stats are only one part of the picture, but look at Saw. Saw is a coach who once again has not played a professional series in going on 4 years. Went 27-30 for this set. ELIGE went 34 for 41. He only managed to get a handful more kills than their coach and died 11 more times. And that simply can't happen with what is expected out of ELIGE. It's a total underperformance, and the team suffers because of it. And all of that is to say, complexity still realistically could have sent this to 3 games. On the first map, Ancient, complexity hold their CT side to a 6-6 half. They keep it close, they keep it tight, but then we swap sides and complexity try to mount a good T side offense, but they just can't do it. They lose 7 straight after the pistol round, and heroic completely shuts down their T side attack because once again, ELIGE, the spearhead, if he's not able to get those entries and get that map control, the T side for complexity has no teeth. But okay, you figure first map of the tournament might be a little bit of a stumble. They're coming off of a pretty bad loss in the EWC. Okay, a little bit of nerves, whatever. We go to Vertigo. Complexity, for all their faults, the best Vertigo team in the world, and it's not close. And they've had great sets against heroic in the past on Vertigo, so you think, okay, we're going to take this pretty handily. But heroic, they persevere in overtime and beat complexity 14-16, and down the stretch, once again, ELIGE pretty much missing in the second half. Meanwhile, fair play to halzRK. He did his very best to keep complexity in this game. 28 kills, 19 deaths, a 1.39 rating, great impact with the omp. If there was just even like a little bit more from ELIGE, if you just got a little bit better impact, especially down the stretch in the overtime, this could have gone to 3 maps. But it doesn't. Heroic win it 2-0, and complexity, they have a lot to think about going forward. They're not out of the tournament yet, but this has been a disastrous start coming out of the player break when you combine this with their results in the EWC. For our third series today, we had Vitality taking on GamerLegion. This is of course the new look GamerLegion with ZTR stepping in as their new young in-game leader, and frankly, I think they showed a lot of good stuff here in this series. They gave Vitality a run for their money and really had them sweating at various points, and the combination of Flammus, Slend, and ZTR put in a lot of work throughout this series. I think there's actually a surprising amount of fragging power on this team. I'm really curious to see after this where GL goes, because they might be a sneaky upset team, especially if they get into like a best of 1 format. they really impressed me with their performance here in this series. Of course, they did end up losing 2-1 to Vitality, but frankly, taking Vitality to 3 maps to begin with is impressive in and of itself, because I don't think anybody would have had them being able to do that going in. For Vitality, I think they are very happy to get through this match in a win, because it wasn't looking good, especially deep into map 2. They were sweating, they nearly got 2-0'd by this GamerLegion team, and they are very happy to come out on the other side with a W. This seems like a vintage slow start for Vitality. ZywOo looked a little bit aloof, not quite locked in until late in the game, questionable impact at times. Flat out, this series would be a loss for Vitality if Flame, Spinks, and Mezzy hadn't stepped up at various points. Not to say that ZywOo was bad, obviously he finishes the series with high numbers because ZywOo always gets his numbers, but there were various points where he was falling behind and didn't have some huge impact in spots where you would expect him to. We get things started on Anubis, and straight up, I don't know what's going on here, but Vitality probably need to start banning Anubis, especially deep into these tournaments, because over the last 3 months, they've played Anubis 7 times, and they have lost on it a lot. They have a 28.8% win rate on Anubis. It's by far their worst map over this time span, and yet they continue to allow it to be picked. And every time they play it, they don't look very confident on the map, and it's really weird because you'd think with a player like ZywOo, he should be feasting on this map every time. But right now, it's just not working, and here it continues to not work. They let GL keep it far too close on their CT side, splitting in half 6-6, and that's just way too much room to work with how T-sided this map is. Flammus had great impact as the B anchor, ZTR was doing great work on the other side of the map, and even though Vitality were able to get into the bomb sites, they weren't able to finish out those rounds. For GamerLegion, I thought they were really good at holding their nerve down the stretch. I think the round that stands out most to me is we skip all the way ahead to round 21. It's 10-10. GamerLegion, they're broke. They just lost to a force buy to Vitality on the previous round, and now they're faced with a choice. Do we save and concede an 11th, or do we force buy and try and hold the momentum? They go for it. The buy, it's not that great. It's 2 Tech 9s, a Deagle, a Galil, and an Op on Slend. They're hoping for some big impact with the Op to get a pick early and try and take some map control. And what I like most here is that GamerLegion takes the map control really early. They get towards E-Box, they take that water, they manage to catch Spinks out of position with a nade out, they get the pick, they get the M4, and instead of just immediately rushing into B, they wait. They wait it out. They want to see how Vitality reacts, which is a really great move, because even though Mezzy and Apex, they have a good position to back things off with nades of their own, there's no need for them to be too impatient. Apex gets a little bit antsy. He's scouting forward for numbers. He gets caught out by the pillar and gets killed for nothing gained other than some intel that they already had. Now it's down to a 3v5, and once again, GamerLegion, they slow it down. They wait. They are not going to push this until they are ready to do it. They're going to let the clock run. They're going to let Vitality sweat this out. Are all 3 people on B? They don't know. Is someone going to push behind them water or mid? They don't know. Geo are more than content to wait things out and slow it down and wait for the B main smoke to clear so they can pinch in. They're going to throw the first smoke to block off dark. They're not going to push it though. They're going to give it a little bit more of a delay. And then the rest of the smokes are going to come in. They're going to waterfall into the site. The bomb is going to go down. And then it's straight bedlam on the bomb site. Trays left and right. And suddenly it looks like it's going Vitality's way. But it's ZTR and Slend with the cleanup in the post plant to win the pivotal round. And it's plays like that that put them ahead in this game and let them go up 1-0 in the series. And we move to Mirage. Now, straight up, for the sake of brevity, we're not going to go into too many rounds here. This was also easily the most entertaining match of the day. It was a double overtime thriller, so if you're going to watch just one game, this should be it. Vitality do pull it out in the end and beat GamerLegion to force it to a map 3, but this was very nearly over. GamerLegion fought back hard on their T side to force overtime in the first place, and I do think if the first round of overtime went differently, GamerLegion would have had the momentum to win out this game. Slend led the way for them, having a spectacular performance on the op throughout, and frankly for Vitality, they should be very thankful that Spinks and Flames came online when they did, because this was not a great game from ZywOo. He went 20 for 25 in a double overtime match, which for his production, what he's expected to do, is awful. Alright, so let's talk about this round here in overtime that I think is where it went wrong for GamerLegion. It's the very first round. They're going to carve out some mid control, which is nice, and Vitality are going to give them that space, but afterwards, the round is going to grind to a halt. Neither team is willing to really push or give up anything, so GamerLegion end up kind of just stuck in mid, waiting for something to happen. The clock is going to run down a lot here, and they're not able to get Vitality to bite on any feints or any utility, or to take any kind of perspective peek to look for anything. Vitality wisely hold back and wait out GamerLegion, knowing that they have to come to them. Eventually, GL are going to try and make some space towards B, maybe looking for a B take here, but it doesn't really materialize. They back off and they're going to rotate for the late A hit. Still, no picks have gone down, but now things are going to start to swing a little bit in their favor. Flymas is going to get a pick on Apex and Connector. Flames is going to push forward into A main, not able to get the forward pick on Ondu. Now it's a 3v5, but the clock is starting to run low. They're not on site yet. Vitality might be able to sneak out a victory here. Mezzy gets the pick ticket booth. Once again, we're getting down really low here. 15 seconds. The bomb is down. Suddenly it's a 3v2, but GamerLegion are forced to prioritize the plan here. They molly off ticket booth, thinking that they're safe, but Mezzy very smartly gets ahead of it, gets the triple box, and catches Slend in the middle of the plant. Nobody's expecting any CT presence because of the Molotov, and if the round hadn't been so down to the wire, they would have been watching for it. But they're in a panic. Clearly, they're trying to get ahead of the timer, and Vitality, they spoil it. They win a round that they were not even supposed to be in because the clock was in their favor, and a last-minute mistake by GamerLegion cost them that round and crucial momentum. And it's not like GamerLegion faded away from there. Like I said, this went to double overtime, but as soon as we tied up this first overtime, Vitality looked confident, they looked like they woke up, and they were in control of the game, and that's why they're able to win it out. From here, we move to Dust 2, which is a fantastic map for Vitality, and I don't know if the Mirage game shook them or if they just weren't really prepared to play this map, but GamerLegion were not in this D2 game whatsoever. It's a 13-5 stomp, and ZywOo, he activates, fully activated on the CT side, dominant, so many kills, 17 or 18 in the first half, ends with 25, and the game and the series is over, it feels like in a blink. And Vitality, they win it. It wasn't a safe win, but it's a win, and that's what they needed. GamerLegion dropped to the lower bracket, and Vitality move on. For our final series of the day, I'm just going to be straight up honest with you guys. I don't really have much interesting to say. It's Astralis versus the Falcons, and Astralis win 2-0, and it wasn't really a close series, but it also wasn't really that interesting of a series to watch. Not a whole lot of interesting stuff happened, there were only a handful of highlights, and while Astralis looked good, I do think their T-side looks a little bit suspect to me still. I have a lot of questions about Device's validity as an in-game leader against top-tier competition, and against these teams that are right around their level or maybe a little bit worse, he's doing well. But as soon as Astralis gets to playing better teams that are in the top 10, it feels like they start to fall short. So I don't really know what to make here. For the Falcons, I just don't really rate this lineup. I think Magisk and Sampaius are good, but Snappy is like an okay in-game leader, Madden is very inconsistent to just really not that great, and Dupree just needs to retire. He's old and washed up at this point, and he's not contributing to this team at a meaningful level. We start off on Dust 2, but it's 13-7 for Astralis. They dominate 9-3 on their CT half, which means it's really easy to close out on the T side of Dust 2. The T side attack for Falcons looked weak, not very inspired, and they weren't able to do much against Astralis. You had Yabi having great impact around the map. Stown had some great plays as well. Device, a lot of entries and first kills, great impact with the op. Overall, I would describe Astralis as not bothered throughout this game or this series whatsoever, and the same thing really on Ancient. It's a 13-9 affair. Alright, Falcons are a little more in it, but even then, you have Sampaius not able to get impact like you would need, considering he's your best player. And yeah, you do well to hold off Astralis' T-side attack, keep it to a 6-6 half, but you just have nothing on the T side. Astralis once again dominate their CT defense against this team, and close out the game in dominant fashion once they got their economy straightened out. It just felt like an easy win for Astralis, and that's the most I have to say about it. And that's it for today's coverage. Definitely some exciting games, some letdowns, some big upsets. All in all, a nice day of Counter-Strike to be sure. Tomorrow we have the upper bracket finals between Spirit and Heroic, and Vitality versus Astralis, and the lower bracket elimination matches between OG and Complexity, and GamerLegion versus the Falcons. I'll be here tomorrow covering that as well, so make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff for more recaps coming your way. This video is powered by Advanced GG. If you want to check out any of their amazing products, you can do so at the link in the description down below. And if you decide to make a purchase, you can use my code LIONS10 at checkout for 10% off. Thank you to the Advanced GG guys as always. Shout out to my channel members Justin, Jesse, Furley, Bubblesj, and Dr. Cocktor for keeping the lights on. I love you guys. And yeah, that's going to be it for me. First tournament recap after the player break, so I'm dusting off a little bit. I'm stretching out. I'm getting back into form. I'll be back better than ever, baby, starting tomorrow. So I'll see you guys then. Peace.